All right, we are live, and all right, Sue is with us. Oh, let me get you back in there, Sue. All right, there you are, Sue. Hi, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52. This one is the for coaches edition. Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. I am your host and author and jovial fellow, Jeff Klubeck. And by now, you know that Get a Clue in 52 is a tips book, and it's a series of tips books. The first one that I wrote was all the way back in 2019. I wrote this edition, made all the mistakes. I found all the mistakes when I read a tip every Sunday night, word for word, and found like where I misspelled my name and the formatting issues and all kinds of embarrassing mistakes, which is part of the vulnerability of personal professional growth. Cleaned it up and read. We got to this version. So this is the version that's available on Amazon. The 5 categories here are communication, networking, marketing, sales, and accountability in no particular order, 52 tips. So I read these. In the first year, I streamed into YouTube, Facebook. Oh, here comes Janina. All right, cool. So the first year I streamed all of the tips. When I read from this edition, I streamed into the Facebook group. The second year, when I got this version, I streamed them into my YouTube channel, Watch Get a Clue, all one word. And then last year, we did the Entrepreneur edition. Oh, this is a party now. All right. We did the Entrepreneur edition last year. Hi, guys. I'm in my opening remarks. I'm going to get to all of your loveliness in just a minute. I'm such a lucky man on a Friday with the genius that's joining me in the room today. Thank you guys for being here. So as a point of review, we did the Entrepreneur edition, and this was fun for me because it was a co-authored project, and we did it in my branding and in Vpool's branding. Vpool is a very accomplished hotelier. So what we would do on Tuesday nights is we would get on and we would my Zoom, and then I would stream it into my social channel. And then 30 minutes later, we would get onto his Zoom and stream into his social media channel. So 2 different brands, collaborative project. Then I got to the end of this year. I'm like, well, what am I going to do this year? What's my tips book going to be? What's going to be the theme? What's going to tie it all together? And I decided to do one for coaches, myself included. As I've mentioned in weeks past, and I'll say again briefly, I'm currently and by the way, let me just throw these banners up because, you create them and, there you go. Welcome to Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. So last year I found myself on the board of California Coaches. Tip my hat to Kimberly Arago, who founded California Coaches, but after a while needed to step down. One thing led to another. I was on the board and was part of facilitating a merger between California Coaches and Professional Coaches Alliance. And I now serve as the vice president of communication for the Professional Coaches Alliance, where I get to work with amazing people like Janina and Margot Garcia, who's our VP of programming, and Janina, who's like all things operations. And there's some amazing collaborators. Tip of the cap to Dr. Tom Teague and Matt Smythe and Virginia Berger. And there's amazing people that are coming together in the community for the purposes of helping coaches build their practices. Professional Coaches Alliance, let me get this plug out, not out of the way, but let me get it into the lime, if you will, the limelight. Where is it? There it is. For those of you that are looking for a community of people to learn with and from, if you have content that you want to deliver and make contributions to aspiring, emerging, and seasoned coaches that are engaged in practice building. We all know how to coach already, and we still could get better at coaching. Yeah, that's fine. And some of what I want trying to do here this year with this edition is making us better coaches. But what we're doing in the Professional Coaches Alliance is helping people build their practices, helping elevate and advocate the profession. So collaborations, networking, projects, continuous learning. That's a safe, comfortable, collaborative place for you to not feel so alone in what you're doing. And of course, everybody has something to contribute as well. So when Margot, wait a second. There we go. There's Margot. So if you think that you've got something to contribute to aspiring and emerging coaches, you want to get a hold of Margot. And once you guys work on what date you'll speak and how that's going to go, Janine is going to make it all happen, make it operationalized, and on and on. So a couple of words right up front about Professional Coaches Alliance. It's one of the reasons I chose to do all 52 tips about coaching, because I knew that I was going to be an advocate for the profession all year long this year. I mean, off into the future as well, but really focused this year, 100%. So the 5 categories in Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. And I say myself included because even though I have a lot to offer aspiring and emerging coaches, I've been in the game for 17 years. I still have a lot to learn. And boy, was that obvious to me as I was writing these tips. I'm like, here you go, coach. You need to, I'm still working on this too. Here you go, coach. Watch out for, that just happened to me last week. So, the struggle is real, and we got to have fun, and we got to be together. We got to love each other and really raise the flag for this profession, because it's an important relationship. Coaching is not friendship. There's no International Association of Friends that regulates with standards, right? There's, coaching isn't, spousal. Coaching isn't like athletic coaching where we got to beat somebody else. We got to beat ourselves, right? We got to, on and on. It's a special relationship. People share more with their coaches than they do with their spouses. People share more with their coaches than they do with some of their best friends. On and on and on and on and on. So we're here to raise the flag. Now, the 5 categories that we're working on, we started the year in self-promotion. Let me go ahead and go through this. We started the year, where's my banner? We had 11 tips in self-promotion. And so that's like where you learn how to become a coach. You get comfortable calling yourself a coach. You start getting comfortable. And Sue, we talked about this in our group mentoring this morning. However many years we've been doing it, we still have struggles with how comfortable am I in those networking situations. When somebody says, what do you do? What do I say? Doesn't matter if you've been in the game 17 years, the struggle is real, right? So we got to get comfortable with self-promotion, calling yourself a coach, embracing the identity of a coach, letting the world know that you're a coach. And then you have to evolve to getting away from letting the world know that you're a coach and transition to letting the world know that coaching is one of the ways you'll solve their problems. So we begin from self-promotion to solution promotion. That's the journey in those 11 tips. Then we moved on to 9 tips about engagement or enrollment. Nobody coaches unless you've got coaching clients, right? I remember the first time somebody told me, Jeff, you can't call yourself a coach until you make $10,000 a month coaching. I was like, dang, I thought I was coaching. Janina, I had the same look on my face until I made $10,000 a month coaching. I was like, that guy was onto something. I had the original reaction first. I'm like, well, does $5,000 a month count? And the guy was just $10,000 a month before you call yourself a coach. And I know he wasn't being like law, legal, black and white serious. He was being conceptual, right? Where you've been in the game long enough where you can get your 10K months, you can get your 5K, your 5-figure months. And that's really powerful. But point is that whether it's a 4-figure month, a 3-figure month, a 5-figure month, whatever, you're not going to be in this game very long unless you know how to enroll people in coaching. By the way, for private coaches, we want people to pay us for coaching, but for leaders that want to use the skills of a coach to be a better leader, manager, supervisor, director, VP, executive director of a nonprofit organization, you need to get people enrolled or engaged in your leadership, meaning permission to lead, right? Motivating somebody and holding them accountable is a hot knife through warm butter if we've got their permission first. So how do we get permission? What's the process? And so I went through 9 tips on how I developed early in my career 2 complimentary coaching session process where I offer a 90-minute session and then I follow it up with a 60-minute session thereafter. And after I've given 2.5 hours of complimentary coaching, they have tasted engagement, they have tasted motivation, and they have tasted accountability, and they can feel or visualize or see exactly what coaching with me will be like. And all these years into it, 17 years later, I'm still following that same process now. Even though I don't have to as much, a lot of business comes my way. I'm doing different project work. I found myself doing complimentary coaching session number 1 yesterday from, 11:30 to 1 p.m. Back to the basics. It always works. Sue, you're nodding because we talked about that a lot in our group mentoring session this morning. So those are the 9 tips in engagement and enrollment. And then what we did, once they're enrolled, once they're on board, like I said, then it's just motivation plus accountability equals results. So we went through 10 tips in motivation, and now we're in the 3rd tip of the section on accountability. And I'm here to make accountability non-threatening. It's not something that I promote too much in this forum, but I wrote this book called The Integrity Game, and its brand promise is to make accountability non-threatening. I'm not here to talk about the integrity game so much as I am to talk about accountability. Accountability will always feel like an attack when we're not ready to be 100% responsible for our behavior. So how do we invite people to have that willingness to be held to account, etc.? It's harder than it sounds. Everybody can pronounce accountability, and that fools people into thinking that they're good at it and everybody else sucks and all of that. So tip number 1 in this section was find a way to love. On accountability on surface, it's got a bad cop reputation. Like, oh, I need you to light a fire under my butt. I need you to kick my ass. I need you to get in my face. I need you to. Yeah, there's all of that. But I don't even care to do any of that unless I love you. I need to be willing to be vulnerable because you're going to push back, smoke. And even if you give me permission to do it, you're still going to resist. Right? Because that's just the nature of fight or flight response and ego defense and all of these dynamics that are at play. So if I'm not willing to be vulnerable, then how am I going to have the effort, the courage, the bravery, and the risk associated with trying to confront another adult? You guys understand? So at core, the foundation of accountability coaching is counterintuitive because on surface it's in your face, confrontation, drill sergeant, browbeat, confront, report. But I'm here to tell you, without love, you're in trouble, right? If love is not the foundation that you're building your accountability efforts on, you're gonna struggle in certain ways. So then number two, oops, that's not it. Number two, where's tip number 31? These aren't in order. Here we go. I'm getting there. Look within. So the tip last week was look within. It's very closely related to love, like the willingness to be vulnerable for either our own or another's spiritual growth. But we wanted to look within. Like we can't hold anybody else accountable unless we've been held accountable. Right? We have to have gone through this. Right? We have to be willing to. We got to be a product of the product, and we have to demonstrate that accountability lives and works and breathes in our life. I got to be like one of the luckiest guys on the planet today. Look at the party is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Happy Friday to this incredible collection of amazing professionals that I get to be energized by over the next, 30-something minutes or whatever. So tip number 32 last week, look within. Hey, Dorothy, I see you. You are here. And I was creating tip number 33, but I forgot to save it. But let me go ahead and just put it in. Tip number 33 is to get, and this is where we are today, to get S.M.A.A.R.T about goal setting. So again, what we did was we found a way to love as the foundation for accountability. Then we looked within in our willingness to be held to account. So we have that experience and that empathy when we're endeavoring to hold others to account. And now we're getting out of the theoretical and out of the self-vulnerabilities into more practical. So today's tip, number 33, the third tip in the accountability section, number 33 overall, is to get smart about goal setting. Before I read word for word from the tip, let me ask, what an esteemed group of people here. Does anybody have anything that you want to say, self-promote, introduce for oneself? Margot, I don't think you met Dorothy. You know Janina and Sue. Mm-hmm. But maybe the two of you could take just a quick second, maybe 30 seconds to let each other know about each other real quick. I can introduce you to each other, but I'd like to hear your guys' voices real quick. To let me catch my breath before I read the tip word for word.
Sure. Hi, I'm Margot Garcia. My business is Great Leader Coaching. I work with managers who manage other managers and help them become the great leaders that their organizations need them to be.
Fantastic.
Nice to meet you. I'm Dorothy Enriquez. So I'm the founder and principal consultant of the Elevate Collective. So we're a premier leadership development firm. And so we mostly work with nonprofits and corporations to help all of their leaders lead from every single seat they sit in, because we believe that your leadership is portable. You take it everywhere you go, and everyone is a leader, even if you don't have direct reports.
Agreed.
I love that.
Nice to meet you.
I love that. Yeah. And leadership is portable. Come on. I'm the one that usually comes up with the cool, catchy, sticky phrases. It's Dorothy, I've met my match. I'm telling you right now. Normally I'm the wordsmith. Normally I'm the guy, but you guys remember last week we talked about how Dorothy and I just see each other right away. We met at a conference in July, fast friends, and it's just wonderful to hear. Every time you open your mouth, I'm paying 100% undivided attention. I love the phraseology and the wordsmith. You lead from every seat. Leadership is portable. I love it. Absolutely love it. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I'm going to go ahead and get into the word for word of today's tip. It's gonna be a mouthful, so stay with me on this and make note of your comments and questions. We'll open up for discussion in just a minute. So here we go. You guys ready to go? Tip number 33, get smart about goal setting. Page number 136 in your playbooks if you're following at home. Here we go. All right. All the way back in the second section of this book, I alluded to SMART goal setting as it is what I teach and assign for homework during the first session of comp coaching. Here in accountability, it's time to elaborate on this approach to goal setting as it is foundational to accountability coaching. No goals, no coaching. It might be a valuable conversation and it might be worth paying a lot of money for, but don't call it coaching on my watch unless there's a typo there. Yeah, it's supposed to say, hey, don't call it coaching on my watch unless the client sets goals and the sessions are in support of their pursuit and achievement of those goals. I don't know why that got so jumbled. Okay, here we go. You guys ready? As with
Yeah.
integrity, when asked, most people will tell you that they set goals. I'm going to slow down and say that again. As with integrity, most people will tell you that they set goals. This is because they are confusing a hope, a wish, or a dream, macro, or a task, activity, or commitment, micro, with a goal. Second, most people are unaware how vast the studies are that have been conducted on high achieving individuals that reveal 100% of them share the habit of goal setting, but also tell us that only 3% of the population sets goals.
Yeah.
When I speak and train clients on goal setting, I make sure they understand the 5 reasons why we fail to set goals, and one of those is that we don't know how. I personally never learned how to set goals in school, which was bad enough. But when I finally did learn about goals during my coaches training education, I learned to make goals SMART. S.M.A.A.R.T, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, in turn, making them accountable. I was thrilled. What a difference when we add specific, measurable, and time-bound as criteria to what we want. That's the difference between a hope, a wish, a dream, and a goal. A specific and measurable what happens by a specific time-bound when. But there's more to the model. The A and the R. But there's more to the model, the A and the R. And soon into building my own coaching practice, I realized there was something. Are you ready? I don't like using this word, but I'm going to use it for attention getting. I'm going to say this again. Soon into building my own coaching practice, I realized there was something stupid about SMART. Just kidding. I mean, there was something redundant and a couple of things missing. Let me explain. The original A is for achievable or attainable. And one way to know that our goals are achievable is if we believe we can achieve them. Again, a belief is a feeling of certainty that something is true. So if we believe we can do it, that becomes our reality. We can do it. Therefore, if the goal is achievable, meaning we believe we can, and that's our reality, it is also realistic to us. And that makes the R in SMART redundant. Read that again if you have to. If we believe it is achievable, then that belief is our reality, and the goal is already realistic by virtue of our believing we can achieve it. I can't wait to elaborate on this in discussion. Let me finish the word for word. Are you tracking? When I'm helping clients set goals, I hold them accountable to only setting a goal they truly believe they can achieve, not the goal they know they are going to achieve no matter what, but the goal they know they can achieve, even if it will be difficult or require effort. Hold that thought, because meanwhile, ... Another problem I saw in the model were 2 things I felt were missing. Number 1, ambition and willpower. And number 2, motivation, or the why of the goal. Meaning, with the original S.M.A.A.R.T criteria, somebody could set a goal to achieve something predictable, or that they are already going to achieve anyway and think it's a goal. That means somebody could set a goal that meets SMART criteria without having to change behavior. Someone could technically set a goal of brushing their teeth twice a day for 30 days straight, something they are likely to do anyway, whether they call it a goal or not. In the coaching business, we are interested in helping people get results they don't already have, which means they need to change behavior in some way. And if so, then their goal is ambitious. The second A in my model is for the ambition it takes to decrease, increase, start, or stop a behavior. We all know that doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is insanity. So when it comes to goal setting, make sure you are aware of a behavior that your client needs to change in order for the goal to be achieved. Or it's not really a goal, is it? What about the R then? The original S.M.A.A.R.T model uses R for realistic, which again I feel is redundant, but also leaves why or motivation out of the model. So I changed the R from realistic, which we established is covered by achievable, to reason/reward, because in the words of Simon Sinek, it is critical to know your why. When I work with my coaching clients to set goals, I hold them accountable to declaring as much why they want the goal as possible. They need to have more reasons to want to achieve the goal than to give up or procrastinate on it. If we have just one reason for doing something, we might get around to doing it. But if we are clear on 5 or 6 reasons why we want something, we might be unstoppable and certainly more willing to be held accountable. I would like to think I have made SMART even smarter. And there's a, SMART even smart.er. And to make it even smarter, you add the E for evaluate and the R for revise. My mom taught me that humans plan and God laughs. Therefore, it is important to periodically check in on the progress your clients are making, or make room for unexpected life events that occur, and help your clients evaluate, revise their goals to make sure they are always achievable and relevant. If you'd like to get smart about your own goal setting, we have an e-course that breaks this all down and comes with 2 complimentary coaching sessions if you want to experience that process as well. Smiley face end tip. All right, so there you have it. With about 25 minutes left to go in our session, I'd love to facilitate a conversation on how I got smart when I learned SMART, got frustrated that it was missing some things that I felt I needed to grow my practice. I decided to make SMART smarter by eliminating the redundancy of realistic with achievable and adding the behavioral change component of ambition and reason. Why? You don't need a coach if you're not ready to change behavior, in a nutshell. I don't think if you're not ready to change behavior, you don't need a coach. So that's where all of this is coming from. Who has any comments or questions about anything that we've covered in getting smart about goal setting? And I mean, there's so much that we can unpack here, but I can't wait to see what you guys have to say or ask or contribute.
I like that last statement that you just made. You don't need a coach if you're not ready, if you're not willing, if you're not committed to making a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If like in a nutshell, like, oh, I'm committed like to brushing my teeth twice a day for 30. I'm like, well, aren't you? You're doing that already, aren't you? Well, yeah, but I'm going to commit to keep doing that. Well, you don't need me for that. Does it make sense? So let's slow down. 4 forms of behavioral change, DISS. And can you guys laugh at me for a second, or laugh with me at me for a second? When I originally, thank you, Margot. She's like, sure. When I originally came up with this, I was embarrassed. I'm like, SIDS, because I like symmetry. I like the S on the one side and the S on the SIDS. I'm like, start, increase, decrease, or stop. And somebody said, Jeff, do you know there's a thing out there called sudden infant death syndrome? I'm like, of course. That's why we're going to go DISS. We're going to diss the old behavior and invite a new behavior. So I went from SIDS to DISS. Super funny. Yeah. But decrease. There are things we're doing too much of. And if we decrease, we don't have to eliminate them. But if we decrease the amount of time that we spend doing that, we've increased the amount of time we have available for a new behavior. Increase. There's things that we're doing already, but we're not doing it frequently enough or skillfully enough. Jeff, I already say the alphabet every day. All right, say it 3 times a day. Sing it like a bird. Try saying it in another language. Invite somebody to listen to you saying it. Record yourself saying it. Listen to the one letter where you lose power in your voice and practice that letter. And right. So quantity or quality, increase or improve quantity or quality would be a change in behavior. And then start, just get started. And then finally stop, where decrease isn't good enough. You need to cut that out. So I say this all the time. When I wanted to be the coach and build the practice and be the dad and be the husband I wanted to be, I had to decrease going to Laker games. I didn't have to stop, but I had to decrease. And I had to stop smoking cigarettes. You guys understand there's a difference there, right? So these are 4 forms of behavioral change. And what I try to support the coaches that I train and mentor is if we don't do a good enough job helping our clients see that behavioral change is part of the equation, we shouldn't be surprised if they don't hire us. We shouldn't be surprised if they hire us and don't renew with us. If we don't establish up front that, guess what? Do you want a hope, a wish, or a dream? Or are you ready to be held accountable? Make this a goal, right? And if this is a goal, are you clear on any single behavior that you need to change? Because I'm here to support you on that behavioral change. I'm here to give you strategies. I'm here to get you out of your own way. I'll do the behavioral intervention. I'll crack the jokes. Whatever it is. But are you clear that if you want something different than what you have, that you are going to need to behave differently than how you've behaved? And that's what you're really going to pay me for.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Oh, I was just agreeing. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, who else? Margot, you got us started with a comment there. Yeah. If behave, I like to say, if there's no goals, there's no coaching. If there's no love, there's no accountability. If there's no right. If then, and if there's no behavioral change, don't need a coach. Might need something else, but not, Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, I think what I love about this and what you've introduced by the extra A and changing it to the reason or reward, it invites potential, and it makes it like there's almost a different level of excitement that it brings to it in setting a goal and going, hey, from a coaching perspective, if I was potentially the client, to me it goes, oh, I know I'm going to get support. I know I'm going to get direction in terms of and being held accountable, so I can really go for this. So I love what it creates in terms of a vibe, an experience, an opportunity to really set some high potential.
Yeah, and when we look at the pillars, we're in accountability right now. We came from motivation, but where did we start? Was engagement. And if you recall back, or if you want to look back to earlier tips, so I mentioned right up the beginning of this one, I referred to goal setting earlier in the book, because goal setting comes up in complementary coaching. I actually communicate, and I got in the very first session, I teach S.M.A.R.T goal setting, including I go through S.M.A.A.R.T and all of the reasons, and I assign the homework. And then if they don't have to set S.M.A.R.T goals, they have to draft, just work on it, just run and jump, and I'll get you over. But they need to show up to the second session with at least some scribbles, at least something out of their head onto paper that we can work with. It also gives me a chance to say, did you work on your goals, yes or no? So I start to introduce what accountability is like if they commit to something in one session that they're held accountable for in the second. By the time I say, do you want me to be your coach? They've already had the experience of committing and being held to account. So it's not going to be a mystery for them to imagine what they're enrolling in. Does that make sense? A lot of coaches out there make the mistake of doing one comp session and they try to go straight to enrollment, and the person has no idea what they're investing in because they haven't been held to account yet. They haven't made commitments yet. They've just gotten a bunch of content in a session. And what's that behind you? Do you want to enroll now? Let me think about it. Well, how about I just coach you for free for a couple of months, and then when it works, you'll refer people to me? I don't know. Right. So I call that ED, enrollment dysfunction. But there's other forms of enrollment dysfunction. But what I'm getting at here is the foundational nature of goal setting. When I was going through my coaches training, I could do a perfect session, what I thought was a perfect session. And if I didn't adjust goals, I wouldn't get a perfect score. If I didn't work with the client to make sure goals were established and be clear. And I have this thing called pledge allegiance to the goals. Like, a lot of times you're in coaching with somebody and they set the original goals, and then 2.5 months later they show up to the session and they want to talk about everything other than what the original goals were. So I say, hang on. I pledge allegiance to my goals, which are the original goals I set when I hired you, and to those goals for which I stand, one commitment under God, whatever it is, and I play this game like, hey, every day can we just play? Are these still the goals? Are these still the 3 most important things in your world? Are you okay to exclude progress on everything else in exchange for progress on these 3? If not, let's update, let's calibrate. So that's why we do evaluate and revise to make sure the original goals, because I guarantee you in the complementary coaching session, it's deer in headlights for them. And so when you say, what are the 3 most important things that need to be different in your world? You and I know that they're going to do the safe things. They're going to dip their toes in the water, the things that they feel, right? It could be 6 months of them paying you and hiring you and trusting you before they're ready to talk about what they really need to talk about. And the entire time that what's really going on is something else, but they're not ready yet. So you'll take your little wins along the way in order to get permission to get into the bigger wins. Like, there was one time I was coaching a woman for all of this busy, overwhelmed stuff for 6 months before she was ready to sit down and say, I don't know if I want to be married anymore. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and let's talk about that. But all of this other busy, overwhelmed shit before we could get there. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. So who else? Who else has a comment, question about S.M.A.R.T goal setting? I'm really grateful that you guys are here. You can tell how energized I am on a Friday, jovial, happy Friday. But there's a lot of power in the session right now, and I want to hear from as many of you guys as possible.
I was going to say, when it comes to goals, I think that, if somebody doesn't understand coaching, the benefits of coaching, how things work, and they come to a free session, a discovery call, I think to hit them with, what are your goals? I think you're right, Jeff, that like they're going to go, well, I think I want to do this and this, right? And it's going to be little, but the more that it's safe to discuss the stretch, that they feel that they're supported and that it's safe, then the goals can grow and get bigger and feel more like a stretch. So I don't know how you teach this, but like in the example that you did just give, like there's a runway
Yep.
of like modifying and expanding and encouraging, like, well, you see, you did that one. What about this kind of thing?
What I love about what you said was the trust and the safe place that needs to be created, right? I know at some point in the complimentary coaching session number 1, I know at some point I'm going to ask the question, what are the 3 most important things in your world that have to be different than they are right now? And I know I'm asking one of the most important questions that they've ever been asked, and I know I'm asking a question that nobody's ever asked them. Nobody's ever come up to the person and say,
Not
what
that way. That's great.
No.
And that's not a goal.
No, that's not a goal.
Not.
It's identifying the areas that you're willing to work on. But here's, if I just come up and say, all right, hey, Janita, we're 5 seconds into it. Welcome to complimentary coaching session number 1. What are the 3 most important things in your world that have to be different than they are right now? What's the most pleasure and pain that you need to get away from or towards? What's the sharpest nail you're sitting on you need to get off of? What's the juiciest carrot dangling that you need to get closer to? Go ahead, tell me 3 things right now.
Are awesome.
No, let me build up to that. I want the most honest answers I can possibly get when I ask that question. So I'm going like, so I loved what you asked. I don't know how you teach this. Boy, would I love for you to know. So we teach this in group mentoring, and we have, I have the coaches, my coaching and leadership training, and we are working on the certification for Integrity Game Certified Coach, Integrity Game Certified, and it's all this content, right? But how do I teach it? And by the way, go back and read the tips in the engagement enrollment section. Because after the first tip or 2, I get into specifically what do I do in comp session 1, and then what do I do in comp session 2. So you're going to get an idea from the book. You're not going to learn how to deliver it until you get in and you've experienced it for yourself.
Sure.
And then you've role played it. You need to let somebody take you through that process, and you need to actually have practice taking somebody through that process. This is what group mentoring is all about. The role plays, the case studies, the collaborative. Sue can tell you her experience is about being the coach and the coachee in our group mentoring sessions that support the training. It's fantastic. I'm very, very, very proud of it, right? But what I love about your question is this that I want to say right now. Remember what I said at the beginning of the tip? All of the research shows that 100% of high achievers share the trait of goal setting, yet despite knowing this, only 3% of the population sets goals. So we as coaches need to know what are the 5 things that get in the way of goal setting. We need to have remedies for that to encourage people to get on the road. And just because I might offer it and start teaching it in comp session 1, we still are nudging them. There's still a runway there, right? So what you were talking about in the last part of your comment, which is, all right, this gets easier and then it gets, and you could scale up. That's down the road. We're not even there yet in the context of enrollment or engagement. It's really like that runway that you're talking about is very important to get to give people a sense of support, to help people illuminate, to make it safe for them to answer questions, to create the framework by with rings around their Saturn. Let them be the planet, but we got to be the rings around their Saturn and guide them on answers. So it's guided, like we said this earlier, guided self-assessment. And we don't want to tell people what they can achieve. Hey, now that you've achieved this, maybe you could achieve that. No, we want to have them tell us, right? So but what I thought was really valuable, what you're saying is, yeah, there is a path, there is a runway that's paved with trust and safety and compassion and empathy and appreciative inquiry and all of those things that make us, loving coaches. But thanks for that. Who else? There was a couple of other. Dorothy, I think you had something. Margot, did you have something as well?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Go
Margot.
ahead, Dorothy.
Oh, you guys thumb wrestle.
So the thought that I had a few minutes back, I think when Sue was talking, was really around having a reward component, because I think sometimes as we set goals at work or in our personal lives, depending on our framing, it often feels like, well, if I don't do this, I will lose this, or this is going to be my punishment, or this is something bad is going to happen as a result of me not being able to achieve my goals, especially when it happens at work, right? You could get up, you could end up on a performance improvement plan. So it's a lot more stick, less carrot. And so I think that infusing the reward component, I think, triggers some things in our brains neurologically to say like, ooh, I'm going to get something other than like, of course, the great feeling of doing something and accomplishing something. I'm going to get something on top of being accomplished in being able to execute this goal 75%, 85, 95, or 100% of the way. And so I think it speaks to more carrot, less stick. So that was
Yeah. What I love about that is I believe in both. In one word, what we teach back to, Janina, how do we teach this in the training? In one word, we call it leverage, right? What is leverage? It gives us more power than we would have otherwise. So it's something that gives us it, right? So imagine the boulder that's just sitting there on the ground and we push it, it's not moving. We hurl ourselves into it, it doesn't move. We put our back against the wall, we put our feet against it, it's not moving. But if we go find, the right stick and we jam it in there and we can get it to wedge in between the ground and the, that rest, and we can take our hands off and it's still there. The stick has intervened in the resting place. You follow? Then we just pull down on the stick and the boulder starts moving. And once the boulder's moving, we can blow on it or push it with our pinky. Things in motion stay in motion. But how do we get it from stuck to moving? Okay.
Sure.
And leverage is the word for that. And where I want to agree with you, Dorothy, and then add. Unfortunately, statistics show that more people are motivated away from pain than they are towards pleasure. But in agreement with Dorothy, I believe in putting both on the table. So when we're getting leverage on our clients or prospects, what we're doing is exactly what Dorothy's saying, but let me be holistic about it. We're associating them, right, to the pleasure of winning and the pain of losing, right? So pleasure and pain, we have to associate them. So very simple questions are, when you achieve this goal, what will you get and how will that feel? And then be quiet. What will you get is the material, and then how will that feel, which is what we really want, by the way, to unpeel more layers of the onion. What will you get? How will that feel? What will you get? How will that feel? So to thank Dorothy for her contribution. Yes, there's people out there in the world, and there's people that teach sales this way. Find the wound, turn the wound, right? Wound, find the pain, exploit the pain, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a fan of that. I think all of us here, we're optimistic. We're loving people. We want, so reward. What's the pleasure? What's the other thing that's at play here? I think, Dorothy, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is something we talked about with, Janina just a second ago, but generally speaking, I never tell somebody what their goal is. And in corporate, in our organizations, often it's the boss, the manager, the shareholders, the man that's telling people in the ecosystem what their goals are. And if you don't achieve your goal, your quota, what we have decided for you, you're in trouble. So not only is it the negative, but it's also it's already against built-in resistance. You guys remember, anything pressed upon is automatically going to press back. So when goals come down from corporate or from the right, when we are told what our goal is, we're already behind the 8 ball because there's something in us that's going to resist that. And then on top of that, if we're going to be punished, now we're fighting through double negatives to try to get to a positive, and it's not a recipe for success. So the integrity game, right? I'm coaching and training managers, supervisors, directors, VPs inside of organizations. I'm coaching and training them the skills of getting people to set their own goals and then shining a light on the intersection of theirs and the team's, theirs and the organization's goals. Helping them see do you see how when you go and pursue what you want, how the team and the organization will win as well? Because here's what the organizations want, here's what the team needs. So what do you want in your career? Can you see how going to get that will help everybody? Win, 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 win. Now you got engagement, enrollment. Now they're ready to run through a brick wall, on and on and on. So I agree with Dorothy 100%. Shame on me if I don't figure out what's the pleasure in all of this for you. If I'm only motivating based on pain and punishment, I'm the shitty leader. That's on me, right? And if I can't introduce, number one, pleasure, and number two, self-directed. I want to get them to declare what their goals are. So there's a lot of people, Dorothy, and you know this as well. They won't take responsibility for setting their own goals. They'll just wait until corporate tells them, and then they'll complain about corporate. And what I want for the world's leaders to be able to do is say, hey, I know what corporate wants you to do, and I know what I want you to do. But because I'm a leader and not just a manager, I want to know what you want to do, and then we'll work together to see the intersection where we all win. We're going to play the integrity game and integrate individual, team, and corporate goals. Can we play this game together? Are you ready to play the game? Do I have permission to support you in your own goal setting exercise so that once it's out of your head on table, now you can see if and where it integrates? And what's interesting too, wouldn't it be healthy, Dorothy and Margot, you guys can tell me, wouldn't it be healthy if after that process they say, oh my God, I set my goals and I'm in the wrong department. Can I apply for an intercompany transfer and go get into marketing? What the hell am I doing in operations if my goals are... And then all of a sudden the organization can say, you know what, that's awesome. We'll work on that. Let's meet your responsibilities while we make a succession plan to get you in the right seat, and when we work to hire your replacement and get somebody in here who has individual goals that align with the team and the department. You guys understand what I'm getting at. Dorothy, do you have any feedback on that? Thank you for that. Like, making sure reward and punishment are part of the equation. Last thing I'll say real quick. I'm sorry. Last thing I'll say real quick is we know about behavioral styles and DISC assessment and different instinctual behavioral styles. So even though I'm a fan, and I would always rather, if I could eliminate pain at all from the motivators, I would, but I believe in the balance, right? But I also know that if I'm talking to somebody like me, I need to motivate with, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't it be great if? I'm an optimist. I'm a people person. I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. Right? So pleasure is going to be my motivator, right? But there's analyticals, engineers, scientists, accountants, lawyers, and they are instinctually motivated to avoid and prevent pain. So even though conceptually I agree with both, I have to know my audience and understand that some people are going to be more instinctually motivated by one or two of those rather than both of them equally. And it's not easy, right? So what else, Dorothy, do you have any feedback on my feedback to your beautiful comment?
I mean, yes, I agree that there has to be a rhythm in the things we do, how we show up in and out of work. But I think ultimately part of what I was hearing you say is create buy-in. And I think sometimes we always ignite that at work because we're often cascading down the goals. And so I think ultimately, even as goals get cascaded down further into the organization, I do think that there's a question of, if you think about this strategic goal or initiative based on your role, based on your strengths, based on your vision, values, your purpose, call it, all of that, how can you specifically contribute to this goal so that there's some of that buy-in? Yes, it still has to tie in, but really creating that partnership. But you are right. Some folks are lazy and they'd rather what to do, which I do think is like that learned helplessness that happens at work, because there are lots of leaders who say, I'm not paying you to think, I'm paying you to do.
Right. Yeah,
and
ultimately, hopefully the organization supports all of this, right? But that's not always the case. Exactly.
Yeah, I also believe that there is a performance partnership created where the individual's goals and their, as you put it very, very well, Dorothy, their personal values, their personal dreams, and all have to mesh together. There have to be components of all of those to make it something that the person's really going to be not only wanting to commit to, but take the initiative and take the action to make them happen. One of the things that I do with some of my clients is, particularly if we've got a big, hairy goal, is to chunk it not only into smaller, doable pieces over time, but then also connect rewards to those. So once they get to, step 3 of, the 30-step project, they're going to get a massage. They're going to do something for their own self-care to reward themselves for having made the effort, for having accomplished, this part of the project, this part of the goal. And so when they're looking at, their next 6 months or whatever, they can see that there's going to be little steps along the way that they can focus on to really help them and to keep them motivated towards that longer, bigger goal.
Yeah. All of this is, we're talking about, it's interesting to me because Dorothy, you say buy-in, right? And then we talk about the reason or reward, punishment or reward, the motivation, the R, why, what will you get? How will that feel? Like the thing is, if I want to associate somebody to pain, I'll say, what have you missed out on in the past? What are you missing out currently? And if you don't achieve this, what will you miss out on in the future? And then if I want to go pleasure, say, well, tell me about a time when you've had that feeling in the past, and what would it feel like to feel that now? And what, in the future, who's the first person you would share that success with right? So we ask these questions to get them imagining the true pleasure and pain of it all, right? And so I'm a big fan of the balance. But buy-in, isn't this interesting? Goal setting, it shows up in engagement, it's motivation, and it's accountability. So when we talk about the 3 pillars of my approach to coaching and leadership, engagement, motivation, accountability, goal setting is, strings the pearls, if you will. It's with, I don't know how you would get engagement, motivation, or accountability without goals. I don't want to know. I'm gonna keep using goals. All right, so here we go. Last call for comments, questions, jokes, expressions, poems, riddles, or anything else. Any self promotions, you guys? Anything you want the rest of the world to know about while you've got this platform? Last call for comments, questions before we wrap up today. Tip number 33 and Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included, because I'm learning something every week. Thank you guys for being here.
No, I love the conversation. Really good.
All right. Well, thank you, Sue. If there are no other contributions today or questions or comments, let me once again thank each and every one of you for being here. Let me, of course, extend the invitation for you to come back next week. Let me know in between sessions if there's, if you want to look ahead at some of these tips and read a little bit and say, hey, Jeff, I got something really special I'd like to say. Can we carve out, if you want to be a featured guest where you want me to promote, hey, everybody, featured guest this coming week is going to be so-and-so really taking us deeper on such and such. I'm doing the work to create the platform, but this is your platform too. So take advantage of whatever's going on here. If you have something to say about Professional Coaches Alliance, if you have something to say about your practice, Dorothy, if you want to promote Elevate Collective, I see a lot of accountability posts from you last week or two. Anyway, this can be your platform as well. Just let me know if you want to be featured, if you have special content you want to present in any way, shape, or form. If it's available to you, there's nothing. This is collaborative. I'm hosting it, but it's ours, not mine. Anything else before we dismiss for today?
Nope. Thank you,
All
Jeff.
right. Yeah, happy Friday, everyone. I love you all very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you very, very soon. We're heading into the fall. Time to sprint to the finish line and really make it happen for all of our 2023s. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the ecosystem. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Dorothy, I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Yes, sure.
You guys will be easy to find each other. Easy. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.